welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, January 26, 2017. I am Rochelle Baptiste with the details. General Secretary of the National Workers' Movement, NWM, Noel Jackson, is expressing satisfaction with the intervention taken by his union to mediate the dispute over the non-payment of salaries to workers at the St. Vincent Shipyard Limited. In a telephone interview earlier today with SVG-TV News, Jackson said that if they did not intervene, the facility could have been closed and persons put on the breadline.
I'm feeling better than I was feeling some weeks ago because the workers have been paid off in the sense that all the arrears in wages have been cleared up, and there's an accounting procedure now in place to determine how much money is owed to fast cash, quick cash, PAYE, NIS, and so on and so forth, including union dues. So we are aware of that. To be honest, I have not had any complaints from the workers over the last couple of weeks. And when I see that, I know that things seem to be going all right, and they are happy that things are turning around. What we have to do is to walk along with the current management to ensure that the interests of the workers are continued to be protected and that everything works out fine in the interest of all concerned.
Jackson believes the steps taken by the NWM was effective and prevented a situation of what unfolded with workers at the 5-star Bookament Bay Resort.
We were able to make intervention, constant intervention, to make sure that the workers are paid money, even though they were not paid on time, even though they were not paid the amounts that they were expecting. Constant intervention. Unlike Bukuma, where persons were walking down there, the hotel was full of people, you can't even get a reservation for dinner, and yet they've been owed for 3 months. Why? Because they had no one or no organization intervening on their behalf. So we have been very effective. The thing is that sometimes persons are not satisfied with what they get. And I could understand that, because when a man works for his wages, he wants to get it in order to look after himself and his family. But we have been very effective.
The NWM General Secretary further emphasized the need for persons not only to join a union, but to also be productive while on the job, so that as a union they can effectively advocate for their welfare.
And people need to produce. If you don't produce, it's hard for you to stretch your hand and ask for more. When we approach an employer to get increased wages and conditions and so on and so forth, we must be satisfied that people are producing to earn what they're getting. Because if you're not putting anything in the kitty, or you're not putting sufficient in the kitty, then things are going to crash. Things are not going to work out well at all. And that is going to impact negatively on the workers' interest.
Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, has dispelled talks that there is a conflict of interest with the state-owned Utley Marina Limited. At a media conference on Monday, the Prime Minister explained that the Utley Company, which is a state-owned company, owns the assets, and Maurice Edwards, who is Director General of Finance and Planning, is now chairman after a change in the leadership position some time ago from businessman Ken Boye. The Prime Minister said that this change was conducted for negotiations to be carried out with the Venezuela entity, which is the lessee in the arrangement.
Mr. Edwards, who is in charge of the state company which owns the asset and acting therefore as the lessor, doing the lease of the property, and the company headed by the Venezuelans, they're the lessee. There is no conflict of interest, because it's not the state-owned company which is managing the Utley Hall operation. It's a different entity.
Dr. Gonzalez says that there have been meetings which he has been informed relating to issues of salary payments for workers and other matters which he expects will soon come to a resolution.
I think they were going to resolve issues concerning small sums which were outstanding with PAYE, some small sums involved in outstanding at the NIS. And there were some things which were supposed to be done under the lease, which were left undone. Of course, the Venezuelan gentleman indicated, gave a list of things which they did, and they expended this amount of money and that and so forth. Well, those are things which Mr. Edwards, who is the chairman of the Utley Hall Company, would verify. Now, so I believe that there's a framework for the resolution, and I will, when the resolution takes place, or if it does not take place, I'll be advised on it.
A opposition member of parliament is pointing fingers at the government for what he describes as the mismanagement of large capital projects here. On radio last evening, MP for Central Kingston, Major Sinclair Leacock, spoke at length on the affairs of business operations in the country, pointing out that the collapse of major business entities were as a result of government interference.
We have those difficulties in Canada, which is still not a done deal, even after so many years, nearly approaching 20 years of an investment, and should have been an easy matter to resolve. So we still is stuck with the stupid issue of beach access as to whether all beaches are public, which in fact they are, and the new language that some beaches have to be regulated, which we have to come clean with that. Then we came with our own Utley Hall Marina, which ought to have been an extremely successful project, which should have been reaping great dividends for whatever reasons. The international financial arrangement, the domestic management situation, subsequent subcontracting, and so on and so forth. We are at a point once more in which what should easily be a successful project, mega project, is still in limbo. You go down to Bokoma, we have the similar experiences with respect to that project and its ability to fly. And for those reasons, people therefore have to hold some sort of reservations as to whether in fact we will get it right with the Mount Wayne Peters Home investments. And so when people are cautious, nobody should envy them or beat them down, because the fact of the matter, on the basis of performance.
Leacock said while this country have capable leaders who have successfully managed businesses, this has not reflected in the largely promoted mega projects.
Something tells me that more than one factor is at play. And one of the things that I would like to be tested is whether or not in the situations where we should have been able to grow organically, that is from the ground up, small steps, and build ourselves up, whether we were so eager in a sense to prove success or to facilitate corruption in some cases, or to compartmentalize the development that only these sets can do this and those sets are not deserving for that. We move from an organic approach towards developing and advancing our societies and simply went for the steroids, that's big muscles overnight. And the rubric for that, of course, is foreign direct investment. Bring all the money from outside, and if you bring money from outside, then you also limit the amount of domestic involvement in those sorts of projects. And project after project after project have failed because we haven't taken those careful steps in building the appropriate business models. And St. Vincent, therefore, is suffering to that extent.
When Parliament meets for the first time for the new year on Monday, January 30th, the 2017 estimates will be tabled by Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez. There are also several questions for oral answers on the order paper. Among the questions to be asked is one from Member of Parliament for Central Kingston, Sinclair Leacock, who will query why the 2016 estimates of revenue and expenditures showed that the government was short by just over $150 million to take care of current expenditures. Leacock is also expected to seek clarification as to how the deficit was made up, including loans, cuts in goods and services, and if the $105 million in transfers happen. There are two bills listed on the order paper to receive their first readings. Parliament is expected to commence at 10 a.m. on Monday, January 30th, 2017. Aimed at removing barriers hindering information communication technology, ICT, and broadband development, consultations are scheduled to begin here next week as the Ministry of Information, in collaboration with the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, the NTRC, commence work to finalize the first draft of a national broadband plan for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which was developed by the World Bank-funded Caribbean Regional Communication Infrastructure Program, CARCIP. In an interview with SVG-TV News earlier today, officials of the NTRC urged the general public to fully participate in the upcoming consultations, as the plan will aid in the development of affordable and reliable broadband services here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Nikita Tony has more in this report.
Aiming to bridge the digital divide by further advancing the delivery of high-speed broadband services in SVG, Vincentians will from the end of this month be involved in consultations on the matter. As the Ministry of Information, in collaboration with the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, NTRC, rolls out plans towards the implementation of a national broadband plan. With just around 40% of Vincentian households utilizing broadband internet services, the National Broadband Plan, according to Information Communication Technology ICT consultant Richard Franklin, is aimed at providing all Vincentians with universal access to affordable and reliable broadband services. Franklin added that the 5 upcoming consultations will seek to have discussions and attain feedback from the public on the first draft of the National Broadband Plan.
We figure once we can get the prices in an affordable range, we'd get more of a pickup, and you're also beginning to see more people accessing the internet using mobile services, mobile data services. So it is increasing, but the key thing is to now increase it to the households. The citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines contribute to the plan also, and sort of provide a little bit more drill down as to what they would like to see and what they expect.
Pointing out that through the Universal Service Fund USF, the NTRC has done its utmost best to ensure that internet access is affordable and reachable to all Vincentians. Universal Service Fund Administrator at the NTRC, Kyron Duncan, highlighted the importance of the National Broadband Plan.
Internet access in all of the schools, all of the learning resource centers, all of the community centers. We provided internet for $10 at a subsidized price for 340 households, but there needs to be a bit more with regards to policy. You understand? So we saw the need to start the process in developing the plan, and Mr. Franklin would now come in and assist us in finalizing the plan and taking it forward for adoption of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Expressing hopes for proper and constructive discussion and feedback on the first draft of the National Broadband Plan, Duncan advised persons to come out and give their input for the development and enhancement of this country's broadband services.
We need the feedback of the general public. People are always saying that their services are this or their services is that. So what they need to do is come out, tell us what you would like to see included to protect you or to give you the ability to get more access. The first one will be in Layu at the Learning Resource Center on the 31st of January. The second would be at the Georgetown Secondary School on the 2nd of February. The third would be at the Canawan Primary School on February 7th. Beckwith Community High on February 9th, and the final one will be held in Kingstown at the Methodist Church Hall on February 16th, 2017. Now, all of these consultations in the rural communities will be starting at 6 p.m. and the one in Kingstown will go from 9:30 a.m. until 12:30 p.m.
With plans in place to have the National Broadband Plan implemented over the next 5 years, all Vincentians are being urged to participate in the upcoming consultations. Nikita Tony reporting for SVG-TV News.
Members of the public were given the opportunity today to learn more about the services provided by the Customs and Excise Department as the institution held a public exhibition outside of its administrative building. The exhibition forms part of a week of activities commemorating International Customs Day under the theme Effective Border Management in a Modern Customs Environment. Speaking with SVG-TV News, Comptroller of Customs, Owena Phelps, said the exhibition forms part of the department's thrust to educate the public on issues relating to its operations.
We are currently holding an exhibition, okay, which is something that is always on our annual calendar at this time of the year, where we, on the outside, there is a stall set up, and basically we are displaying prohibited and restricted items so that the general public can know in their travels, if they're importing stuff, what are some of the stuff that are prohibited. So when something is prohibited, it means that it cannot be imported. It's banned, all right? And some things that are restricted, so that means that you may require a license to import or a permit or some other licensing arrangement, right? So we are displaying some of those items on the outside.
Phil said the exhibition also featured information relevant to items which are commonly imported, as well as showcase the department's website, which would greatly assist persons who are in the business of importing.
We're encouraging persons to come in and ask questions on, you know, the different, anything customs that they would like to know. We are also featuring our customs website, and we are encouraging persons, we want to encourage persons to use it a bit more for information, especially when you are importing. We have what is called a duty calculator on the customs website, and that can be very useful for persons who are importing in terms of determining what duties you are required to pay. So you would have an idea before you import something, what the duties are, so that when you come to customs, there's no surprise. All right, so basically, that will be on display. Officers are there to show you how the duty calculator should be used.
The Customs Comptroller expressed gratitude to the public for their interest and participation in today's exercise.
My experience, what I saw this morning, early this morning when we set up, there were persons there and they were showing interest, especially on the outside with the prohibited and restricted goods. You know, people are always interested to know what they can bring and what they can't bring. And there were persons downstairs who were filling out, you know, the forms and so on. So I think the response has been fairly okay, satisfactory, and we are thankful to the public for their cooperation.
Intending to bring value to the overall carnival experience as they launched their mass band and events company leading up to the 40th anniversary of Vincy Mass, the Vincentian Chocolate Party is expressing hopes to provide an avenue to expose this country's culture worldwide. Speaking at a media launch earlier this week, co-director of the organization, Calvert Jones, said that with the coming into operations of the Argyle International Airport, this country will receive opportunities to expand its international reach, and so efforts must be made to take advantage of this exposure.
For us to expand whatever products we offer that are of extremely good quality to the rest of the world, and we no longer have that bottleneck. So with this very exciting marriage that we have of Party Nation and the chocolate company, we see this as what we call an ultra premium experience and a big step forward. The synergy that we have with the Ministry of Tourism and the fact that we bring in Fever TV, the owner and host, an island style program to the island, and also celebrities. It's a demonstration of what we're bringing to the table, because it is in fact exposing the culture that we have here and not necessarily taking anything away from it.
Cognizant of the fact that the Vincentian culture is very diverse, Public Relations Representative Lafon Fraser emphasized the need to present options to persons, but at the same time ensure that the country's rich culture is retained.
And so Vincentians have options. We have the bands that stay true to tradition, as in from the very beginning you have those same traditional costumes. And then we have the other bands that come in and bring flavors from other islands and perhaps from across the world. So Vincentians have options in terms of what style of costume they would like to play mass in. And options is a good thing, right? There is variety is the spice of life. That's the best way to put it, right? So while some of the costumes, or maybe all of them, people will say, okay, this is not traditionally Vincentian, it is mass, right? Mass is diverse, and we do want to embrace that diversity and give people options in terms of what they want to play mass in. We need to show people our flavor, and I'm very happy to be able to help to do that through this fantastic company.